Hello, Mavs fans. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. I'm Kirk Henderson, and I'm joined as always by Josh Bowe. We are editors at Mavs Moneyball, and we're coming to you live. It's about 11:40, following the Dallas Mavericks getting a really, frankly, incredible Game 2 win over the Oklahoma City Thunder, 119-110. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm hanging in there. Pretty tired, real life, reared its ugly head this week, but this was a fun game to watch, especially after that game 1 result. That was not, it was like, it almost felt like mirror games in a lot of ways, and we'll get into it. But that was a really nice, high stakes, competitive, engaging NBA playoff game, and the Mavericks won. So that means we get to talk about a lot of good stuff.
Talk about a lot of weird stuff. Most of it good.
Yeah.
Most of it good, and then some of it like, huh? And you look at the box score, and if you're showing this and talking to somebody tomorrow, like let's just pick Derek Lively out of the hat. Derek Lively's box score is fucking horrendous. 1 of 7 from the floor, and they're all bunnies at the rim. He only scored 1 oop off a Tim Hardaway pass, and yet Derek Lively's impact on this game was as far-reaching as any player not named PJ, Kyrie, and Luka. He was astoundingly good on defense this game. At least I thought so. And I think we should circle back to that, of course, but he's just one example of when you're going through and talking about this game, there's just elements of it that flat out don't make sense. I think, the way I sort of think about this game is, and I wrote this in my recap, this is not to take anything away from the Dallas Mavericks victory, but over the before the trade deadline, essentially from 2021 to 2024, you often had a flow chart that you would point to, which was, are the Dallas Mavericks hitting their threes? Yes, then they look like they're the greatest team of all time and are simply unbeatable. If no, then they look awful. Now, the hallmark of this particular team is they've still looked pretty good when they can't hit their threes. That's what's been nice. But this is the first game this postseason where the Dallas Mavericks have really shot the ball as a team pretty damn well. And it was, in my opinion, the main reason why they won the game. You hit 18 of 37, that's just under 50%, and you hit 8 more threes than the Thunder. That's plus 24 points. And I hate to be that simplistic or take away from anything else that happened, but that's my main real starting point for this game.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to lose an NBA game making 8 more 3-pointers than your opponent. It's just the number, like it's just math. Like the numbers are the numbers. Like it is really hard. And actually, it's kind of a testament maybe to the Thunder and to maybe some of the weirdness of this game that it was actually as competitive as it was, because if you make 8 more 3-pointers than your opponent, you're usually winning very comfortably. So the fact that it was actually a, single digit game for a majority of the second half, I believe, with a couple of spurts for the Mavericks to get it over double figures, is actually kind of a testament to just how weird this game is. And then that the Thunder are, they are not the Clippers. They are not the old and slow Clippers. Like they've got some horses, that's for sure. But yeah, the 3-pointers are the story. Mavericks shot chart is absolutely hilarious because they made 18 threes. They were 12 of 18 from above the break, and they were 6 of 19 from the corner. Both of the 19 corner threes. I'm not going to look. I haven't looked it up, but that's probably the most corner threes that an NBA team has shot this postseason. 19 corner 3-pointers is a lot of corner threes, and then only making 6 of them is hilarious. And then you make 12 of 18 from above the break. They were 10 of 24 in the restricted area. They shot better on above the break threes than they did at the rim. Like, just a bizarre, weird game. I don't know if you can package this game up and be like, okay, here's the blueprint. This is how they're going to win this series. But we're in the small sample size zone. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, they only need 3 more wins. They don't have to get them like this.
That's right. So, you don't care how.
No, you don't matter. That doesn't matter anymore because we're not relying on month-long stretches to get a sample size. This series is going to end in a couple weeks, and it doesn't matter if you get a fluky win as long as you get 4 of them.
Yeah. And Tanya in the chat asks, the Mavs aren't going to shoot 50% again, so we need to figure something else out. I mean, my counter to that would be exactly what you talked about with the corner threes. The Mavericks have some good corner 3-point shooters who didn't hit any of their shots tonight. Outside of PJ, but PJ is not really very good from the corners, at least over the course of the season. He's a better above the break guy. Josh Green missed a few. Josh Green, was 3 of 5 from 3, but I think he missed 2 wide open threes. And the kind of shot quality the Mavericks were getting was actually pretty amazing.
19 NBA teams do not want to give up 19 corner threes. Like, so they got the looks that they wanted. And I think, where we can start is I think it was kind of a trickle down effect because Luka came out and set the tone with his 16 points in the first quarter, the best quarter he's played in the playoffs, I think, at least scoring wise. It's by far the most he's had in a quarter in these playoffs. Mavericks get out to a 36-32 lead after one quarter. And really, I wonder if that scoring quarter spooked the Thunder into maybe mixing things up a little bit, because we've always talked about, a really good way for a defense to attack this Mavericks offense is just stay home on the role players and let Luka score and see if one man can outscore you. And to Luka's credit, he's pretty good at that. So he might be able to. And that's kind of what the Thunder were doing a little bit. And they started sending 2 at the ball. They started rotating more. They started shading more towards the paint after that first quarter from Luka. So credit to Luka for finally having this kind of breakout quarter, because I think that got the ball rolling on everything else and letting the role players get comfortable.
Yeah. Well, and then the secondary thing that started to happen, there's the recurring theme, and I got actually really testy about the podcast, is the kind of growing, like, people are like, when Luka's off, somebody else, like Kyrie needs to be much more assertive. And I still don't disagree with that. But what Kyrie did in this game was really play like a 1990s John Stockton point guard. I mean, he was making really simple, direct passes because he causes the Thunder started to freak out when he had the ball. Kyrie had 5 assists in the second quarter. And I mean, 3 of them, I think, were to Tim Hardaway, or at least we're setting him up. And so that's obviously something that was really, really important and not something I necessarily think is something you can duplicate. But if you're getting away with Kyrie having it wasn't passive. It's just, he didn't force anything. And he was 2 of 8 from the floor. He took a couple of contested shots. Like, Jalen Williams is a really good defender. And so Kyrie channeled all of his, what I would normally say would be reserved for his offensive energy, into just moving the ball and really playing fantastic defense. And so there's just so much, and Kyrie's another element of a weird thing that happens, because if you were to tell me the Mavericks won with Kyrie scoring 9 points, I would say, what in the world happened? And it's just, his stat line is bizarre. He had 2 blocks and 2 steals. What?
I know. Not only did he only have 9 points, you would be like, no way, but also we'd be like, oh, he also played an amazing, like, he played a great game, only scoring 9 points, like you're saying. So that was a big story coming out of game 1, was the Maverick stars were not as good as the Thunder's 2 best players.
Yep.
And this time they were undoubtedly, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander was pretty good, but Jalen Williams was kind of stinky in the second half. So I don't know if they were better collectively than the Thunder's 2, but they were at least significantly better than what they gave the Mavericks in game 1. You need your 2 best players to look like the 2 best players on the floor. And the fact that Kyrie was able to do it without scoring is just like, I don't know. That's a remarkable effort. He hasn't had a double-digit assist game since March 14th. Like, he just, the way, but he often doesn't get the chance to. Right. That's what I was going to say. They don't. Yeah. He doesn't do that in this offense. It's not his ability. It's just that's not how they use him.
Yeah. So it's, and really the Mavericks, the way this game went, the Mavericks punched first in the first quarter, and the Thunder just took all the Mavericks heat. I mean, the Mavericks scored 36 points, and that was their highest scoring quarter. And after that, their scoring went down every single quarter. But the Thunder just hung around, and it felt bad on my end. I wrote the game recap, and I'm sitting here looking at everything the Mavericks were doing. And I said this at halftime. I was like, this doesn't feel sustainable. The Mavericks scored 68 points. Kyrie hit a pretty big – no, it wasn't Kyrie. It was Josh Green. Kyrie fed him the ball to give the Mavericks a 6-point lead at the half. The Thunder came out, and I mean, we'll have to talk about this more. If Mark Daigneault realizes that he can't play Josh Giddey, these games the Mavericks might be down 2-0. I mean, Giddey is he is the linchpin for the Mavericks' success in getting. I mean, Giddey was a negative 20. Like that's like
in 11 minutes too.
Yeah, that's heinous. But I still thought in the second quarter when Wiggins came into the game, Aaron Wiggins came in, they obviously scored more easily. Like Wiggins attacked Luka really well. But the Mavericks still did a pretty damn good job taking all of the Thunder counterpunches. Every time it felt like the Thunder were about to go on a run, the Mavericks had an answer in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a PJ Washington 3, whether it was Luka Doncic scoring back-to-back buckets, to give the Mavericks a 110-101 lead. Like, there was a lot of answers from the Mavericks tonight. One thing we talked about in our pre-show was that this is a team, and I think this may vex some people that aren't really fans of the Mavericks. This is a very mentally tough team. I think they get painted with a different brush because Luka comes off as unstable a lot of the times, but he's passionate. And the rest of the team has really taken everyone is like essentially taking a fuck this attitude. Like they were not fazed by the Thunder's crowd. They weren't fazed by the Thunder's counterpunches. I was really, really impressed with the Mavericks as a team in the second half of this game.
Yeah, for sure. I think I mentioned this on Twitter. Like the Mavericks had multiple double-digit leads in this game that the Thunder erased. And each time the Thunder erased it, the Mavericks answered with maybe like their best stretch of basketball, like for a 4-minute stretch. It was really impressive. Like they got out to like a 14 or 15 point lead in the first half, and then the Thunder came right back, and then the Mavericks got it back up to 6 going into halftime, which was only 6 because no, sorry, Chet Holmgren, that was at the end of the first quarter, but still they got it up to 6. And then I think twice in the second half, they got it up to double digits, and each time the Thunder got it right back. And I think the Thunder had a 2-point lead with the ball in the third quarter and was rolling, and the crowd's going nuts. And then OKC didn't score for like 4 minutes. And that was the defining thing for me in this game was the Mavericks defense at least 3 times had 4-minute stretches where the Thunder either made 0 baskets or 1 basket.
That was shocking. Why was so you're much better about seeing this stuff in real time than I am. Why was that? Were the Mavericks just getting lucky on some of the Thunder's 3-point misses, or were they really forcing the Thunder off the 3-point line, and then Lively or Gafford were there at the rim? Like, what was going on during that? Because that was gut-wrenching in the fourth quarter when the Thunder just kept missing, and yet the Mavericks weren't really making either.
Yeah, definitely some 3-point shot variance for sure. I think the Mavericks stayed close because we've talked about the Mavericks scheme is going to give up some threes. And I think going back and watching game one and seeing what some people wrote and maybe rewatching some clips, the Mavericks are going to give up some threes, but they gave up a little bit like too easy threes, like miscommunication, not like we want you to shoot this, like, oh shit, we made the wrong rotation or we effed up a switch, like, and now they have an open 3. Like there was a lot more of that in game 1 than we're going to give you this shot because we don't think you're going to make it. In game 2, I think they got back to more of letting the shooters they want shoot the threes that they want them to shoot, and then contesting well on the stars shots. Like Jalen Williams, what did he shoot from 3? He was only 2 of 4, so they kind of ran him off the line a decent amount. Shea was only 1 of 3, and he hit a decent amount of threes. And
that one Shea made 3 though.
It was beautiful.
You remember, like
that little step back against Luka.
This is why it gets so testy with our commenters. We're like, Shea sucks. I'm like, that is the coolest fucking shot. He's so on balance, and he just takes a little jab step and steps right. It's not even a step back. It almost looks like an old man shooting at the YMCA, and he just drills it.
Yeah, So I think they did better in not giving up like freebie threes, so to speak, like just the threes that their scheme's going to give up. And then here's, we talk about the Mavericks threes. This is the game. The Thunder in the first half, 11 of 14 in the restricted area. Second half, 8 of 15. That to me is the game, because the Mavericks, again, their defense is predicated on walling off the rim and walling off the paint. They don't let teams score in the paint, and that's the easiest shot in basketball, is a layup or a dunk. And you take away those, you're gonna run into a team that might not be able to not have their three ball, and if they can't rely on scoring in the paint, then you're kind of suffocating them. And the Mavericks did that. 8 of 15 at the restricted area in the second half, 3 of 10 in the paint outside the restricted area. I thought their defense at the rim was significantly better, and then I also thought their attention to detail off ball was a lot better. They got killed on some backdoor cuts and some blow-bys, and they really tightened that up in the second half. And also, we talked about this in game one, it's a lot easier to defend when you're putting the ball in the bucket, right? Like they shot 39% in game one. I don't think it's a coincidence that the Thunder kind of wore them down, because you keep giving up live ball opportunities off missed shots. Like good NBA teams, which the Thunder are going to punish you. And now the Mavericks make 18 threes. They shoot 48% from three, and they were above 50% for a lot of the game. That means the Thunder are going to have to walk the ball up the court, and the Mavericks are so much better in those scenarios that it just kind of flows together like that.
Yeah. And I'm going all the way back to a comment that was made. Can't remember who it was, but she said this is not, the 3-pointers aren't really sustainable. I'm going through and I'm looking at what the Mavericks didn't do. And when you get like a 3 of 12 performance from Jones, so you take away his threes, Jones was 2 of 7 in at the rim, basically.
Yeah, Chet played a monster game.
Yeah, he did. He really did. But there's also some of the bunnies that just wouldn't go down.
Yeah,
then
sure.
There's Lively, and he was obviously in Lively's head, but like if Lively makes 2 more baskets, if he's 3 of 7 instead of 1 of 7, this game feels differently. There's some things that could, Kyrie making a couple more shots. There's some things that will equalize. Like, PJ Washington, he's not going to have a 7 of 11 for 3 game again. Man, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and a block. What a game from PJ. I'm maybe needed to write a little bit more about that. But okay. All right. We're at about the halfway point in the show. Those of you who are in here live, thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you could do me a favor, consider hitting like on the stream. While you're down there, consider subscribing. As you may or may not know, we go live after every game as close to tip-off as we can, mainly because Josh and I want to go to sleep. Not because it's all that special. And then, after this first show, we hold a secondary live show, which you can participate in. You can come click into the show just like you're part of it. It's a radio show. It's a lot of fun to talk basketball with Mavs fans. A lot more fun than hanging out on the internet and yelling at one another. Though I suppose this is hanging out on the internet, yelling at one another. It's just doing it face to face. If you could consider leaving a comment on the video once it's done, or if you're watching this later, I love reading some of the comments that we have, particularly the people that are like leaving comments as they're watching. I love some guy. One fan left like 6 or 7 last game. It made me laugh. Those of you who are listening on the audio stream, thanks so much for hanging out with us. We appreciate a review and a subscribe. And, come join us for the live show if you're listening on the audio feed. All right, now I'm going to insert some ads, and Josh and I will be right back. Okay, we're back. We got 3 people I want to give shout-outs to who are leaving us tips. We have Volta Dumar. If you run the Thunder off the 3-point line, most of them don't know what to do with it. I would disagree with that, but I also think they're running into Lively and Gafford.
Right.
And that is a gamble the Mavericks are pretty thrilled with. So thank you for the tip. That's really something we really appreciate. Then we have longtime listener and participant Chris Haley saying, need to give the Oklahoma City Thunder that loss to throw off their momentum. Mavs are a different beast than the Pelicans. I'll see you at the game Saturday. Go Mavs. And then we have Bobby Chapman with the tip, but no comment. Guys, thank you for that. If anybody likes leaving us those super comments and those $5 donations, Josh and I really appreciate that sort of thing. It helps us out here. Okay, so we got about 10, 12 more minutes and you can go to sleep. What else should we talk about?
We got to talk more about PJ, right? You just mentioned it when we were going into break. I mean, everything we talked about, doesn't happen. Like the Mavericks don't win if he doesn't make 7 3-pointers. Like if he doesn't make 7 3-pointers, the Mavericks don't win this game. Like they could have done everything else the same. He makes 1 or 2 3-pointers and they lose. So it was, a wild performance. And I was thinking about it because like he's shooting, I think 32% this season. He's shooting pretty poorly with Dallas. I think he's actually shooting worse with Dallas than he is with Charlotte this season. And he was not shooting well from 3 with Charlotte. And like it was pretty clear that the Thunder were treating him like a bad shooter, like his percentages show. And I know
he is a bad shooter.
I know.
A certain friend of me of the pod was losing his mind where he's just like, I hate games like this where outlier guys go nuts. And it's like, it happens.
I know, but I wanted to make a point off that because while I don't disagree with that thought and I don't disagree with the numbers and what the percentages say, like to me, PJ Washington is not in the same category of shooter as Derek Jones Jr. or Dante Exum or Josh Green or, Josh Giddey, Lou Dort. Name any like defensive first player that teams sack off of. Like they give the Tony Allen treatment where they're like, we're going to leave you open and dare you to make shots. Like, I don't think PJ is that guy. And I know that's what the percentages say he's that guy. I know they do. I'm not trying to argue against the numbers, but this is a guy that came out of college, his senior year, not his senior year, but his second year out of Kentucky. He shot 42% in his last season in college. First 2 NBA seasons, 37%, then 38% from 3. He's an offense, like he was a 12th overall pick in the draft. He's an offensively talented player. His jumper looks great, like his form, and when he shoots it, I think it looks great. His misses don't always look great, and it's kind of weird, but I'm just talking about like his follow through and form looks fantastic. Like you don't see a hitch. There's nothing that you look at and you're like, why doesn't this work better? It's been confounding to me why his shooting has dipped so much over the last 24 months or so. Because I just think he has more talent than that. And that's when we talked about the trade. We're like, he's a talented offensive player. He scored 43 points in a game in January. Like
he's not a 27% 3-point shooter. He might be a 33% 3-point shooter. He might be below average, but he's not like bottom of the barrel awful.
Yeah. And to me, like my thought process is, and I'm not the coach of the Thunder. I'm not trying to give them free tips, and even if they won't listen to me.
Sure,
it doesn't matter. But like they were treating PJ tonight like he was Tony Allen or Derek Jones Jr. or one of those. He's not that guy to me. And to me, like you don't want to give guys that even if they're struggling with their shot, like he's clearly more talented on offense than a lot of these other Mavericks role players. He just is, and you're not going to convince me otherwise. I'm not going to back down from that thought, that take, or that opinion. Like, why would you give him open shots? Like they were deliberately like you saw like they put Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on him so that Shai could roam and try to play off-ball defense and havoc maker because that's actually what he's best at. I think he led the league in steals this year, and he only had 1 steal. PJ got so many weak side corner threes, because Shai was not guarding him.
I mean, everybody did. What did you say? 19
corner threes. Yeah, that's part of the Thunder's defense. Like they're kind of like the Mavericks in the sense where they try to wall off the rim and they'll give up some threes every now and then. But the Mavericks, when they're playing, they play at least 2 non-shooters in Jones, and then one of their centers for a lot of the game. I just would rather, like, if you're going to shade your defense, shade off those 2 guys maybe. Like, I don't know. I just think PJ is too talented to be treated the way he's being treated by the defense. And I think the Thunder are, I mean, if they're going to bank on him missing more threes, maybe that happens. Maybe I've looked really stupid, but I think they're going to lose this series if they keep guarding.
If you don't have, I mean, this is so in the weeds, but that's kind of the fun. If you don't have bigs past Chet, even if you do have physical defenders, do you really want to take the chance of letting Derek Jones Jr. and PJ Washington get to the rim? I mean, the Mavericks play so vertical now. I mean, I had a friend text me from high school, shout out to Ben, where he's like, I can't get over these alley-oops. I've watched the Mavericks for 20 years, and the ball, like every time they throw an oop, I think it's ridiculous, and then they dunk it. And it's just so crazy that the Mavericks like didn't even. I wonder what did the Mavericks shoot at the rim tonight? Do you have any idea?
10 of 24.
So they shot pretty horribly at the rim tonight.
41% basically. 40,
and that
42%.
That's a credit to the Thunder defense, but I also think they just missed a lot of stuff. So it's like if you're gonna run PJ off the line, he's gonna make Dallas pay, or not Dallas. He's gonna make the Thunder pay eventually. Like we've seen games where he's completely tripped over his own feet, but like the guy's playing great basketball lately. And I would be kind of fearful to let him operate in the middle of the floor if I were the Thunder. I mean, you just kind of got to take the gamble that, okay, next game, if he gets 10 3-pointers, he's going to hit 3, not 7.
Also, he hit how many threes? He hit 3 of those threes in the first quarter. Like they didn't after that quarter, are you like, hey, maybe let's change it up a bit? And they didn't.
Yep.
And then I want to credit the Mavericks also because I think they got him a couple of nice 2-pointers. He did make 4 2-pointers. They had a nice play in the second half where he posted up Shea.
Oh my God.
And just took and got an and one and just kind of manhandled him.
Big boyed him.
And he can do that. Like that's not a weird thing for him to do. Like he can do that. Like he has that skill. So credit to the Mavericks because remember we talked about game 1 and I wrote about it. The half court offense sucked. It was unimaginative. Still got a little weird at times, but I thought it was a night and day difference in terms of like just trying some different stuff tonight.
Yeah. And if it were a different game, if we got paid more money to do this, we might break it down a little bit further, but we're just going to go and say, hey, congratulations to the Mavericks for having a better offensive game. And then, we kind of briefly touched upon Luka earlier. Yep. Luka had 16 points in the first quarter. What, in your opinion, was different about his shots?
He made them.
No, but like watching the way he shot, did you feel any different? I mean, he had to have at least 3 catch and shoot jumpers tonight.
I think he had a couple more catch and shoots for sure, but he still hit step backs. So
yeah,
I mean, they definitely need to try to get him as many catch and shoots as possible because he was pretty good at it this year. But really, he made them. Like the 3-point stuff is just tricky for me to diagnose outside of yes, they did get him some catch and shoot opportunities, but he still made. I think like 2. I mean, he made 5 threes. I think he made at least 2 or 3 step backs. So, like, those just weren't happening before that. I mean, I think he made more threes tonight than he did in his last like 5 or 6 playoff games.
He was 5 of 35 of his before tonight. He was shooting 14% from 3. So yeah, to answer your question, I'm clicking into the game log just to triple check here if the ESPN game log will actually load. Yeah, he hit. It's been real bad.
Yeah, I know. I think he's only hit 17 threes all playoffs. So
yeah, I mean,
tonight.
It's so funny because he hits 5 tonight, so he's 6 of 16, which is 37. That's his season average. If he hits 3 a game, it kind of changes the math. Now. I don't want to say he got lucky, but the Mavericks correctly, like Lou Dort just fouls Luka every possession. Now, I'm not complaining because I feel as if Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford also fouled the Thunder at the rim every time either. It's just not getting called. But there was one possession where Gafford was explaining to Ed Malloy, or not Gafford, that Lou Dort was explaining to Ed Malloy that he has his hands on Luka every possession. Like it was what he said. He's like, I have 2 hands on him every possession. And it's like, I sort of lose my mind at that because I just, my aesthetic preferred basketball is like, I don't like fouling the shit out of people. It's not my favorite thing. I just don't like it. And
getting your fill of that in 2004. And
that's correct.
2005.
And Lou Dort got in foul trouble and that changed their game plan. But like Luka didn't necessarily take advantage of Lou Dort being out for stretches, which was interesting to me. So I sort of want to watch elements of this game again, particularly Luka's possessions, to see what was working. He did take a couple of floaters and a couple of closer shots tonight. And we need, for all the people in the world that insist Luka wants to shoot and he wants to be the leading scorer and all this shit, you watch no, I don't have Cheeto dust on my finger. I burnt my thumb so badly tonight cooking on the grill. Pulling out, it's just so embarrassing. It hurts like hell. Sorry about that. Somebody was making fun of me in the chat. I had to respond. And it's so Luka looks to pass so much. The Thunder are always sending someone at him at a second person at him at some point in the possession. He has to make so many real-time calculations, and he's not been forcing shots. He just had, well, maybe he's been forcing threes, but he's not been forcing 2-pointers. And part of me wants to see him do more 2-point shots because he's not getting some of the whistle Shea is, because he initiates the contact at times and then he spins away from it. Whereas Shea gets he takes a hard jump stop and pumps and pivots and then, kind of does the Dirk Nowitzki style bump and absorbs that way and gets the shot off. And it's driving us crazy, but it's a different kind of contact. Am I making any sense?
No. I see. I didn't understand what you're saying. Sometimes you just wish he would just, and maybe it's the knee or I don't know what it is, but yeah, sometimes you just wish he could just maybe go in a little bit further and not try to peer away from the defender sometimes. But yeah, he was 4 of 7 from the floater range and 1 of 1 at the restricted area. So he was definitely in the paint more. I think this was he had more shots in the paint. He had as many shots in the paint as he did 3-pointers, which that has not been the trend for him in the playoffs so far. So yeah, he was significantly better. Also, shout out 1 turnover. He was very good controlling the ball, not a lot of stupid passes, which sometimes happens when he gets frustrated with his shot. He had 3 steals. I thought he got cooked a couple times on the defensive end, but he got back on it a couple other times with those steals and made some good plays. So yeah, I thought it was huge. Like they need him, like I said, I don't think that the role players have the games that they have tonight if Luka doesn't come out of that first quarter with his hair on fire and scoring whatever it was, 16 points. Because I think that spooked the Thunder into changing how they wanted to guard him. I think they're like, okay, he's on it. He's got his jumper back. Like we can't just single coverage him all night. Let's start shading our coverage over. And then PJ gets 7 threes. Josh Green hits 3. Old friend Tim Hardaway Jr. hit 2, and that's probably one of the last guys we need to talk about before we wrap up.
Big time Timmy Jim. I
17
love
points.
Go with it.
Yeah, just this is why he plays, right? Everyone pulls their hair out. And it's like, why is he playing? It's like, this is why he plays, because he's the only guy that can come off the bench and do exactly what he did tonight. Josh Green can't do that, even though Green had a great game, 11 points on 6 shots, but just a different kind of way he's getting those shots. Dante Exum played 6 minutes, missed both of his shots, looked absolutely shrinking under the bright lights, which is kind of really sad to see after his regular season. Like, just this is why Tim plays. Like you're gonna try to get these good games out of him because there's not necessarily rhyme or reason to them. I mean, he hit some contested 2-pointers, which I'm sure a lot of Mavs fans were like, no, yes, like when he made it. But he has that. He's one of the few guys that has that shot making ability. He's the only guy that has it coming off the bench. So they're gonna keep riding it. And also credit to the Mavs, they had him set some more screens, and that seems to have some success when he sets.
Referring to one's own tweets is like top level lame, but did you see my description of Tim Hardaway on Twitter?
I didn't. I kind of was off my phone a lot.
I said Tim Hardaway plays basketball like Randy Quaid flies planes in Independence Day.
That's really good.
Because it's just I always think of Tim where there's a scene where it's like they're looking for pilots and drunk Randy Quaid is like, I can fly, I'm a pilot.
Exactly.
And it's Tim Hardaway, I can shoot, I'm a gunner.
Yeah.
Like, it's
sometimes you need that.
And we hate it when he misses, because when he misses, it is heinous. But he just has this, like, the kind of unending confidence that Tim Hardaway has. Dudes in the NBA at the kind of level that he is at, your role star in your role kind of level, they don't have that. Like, we've seen Josh Green crumble to dust when he misses 2 3-pointers and just quietly goes away. I mean, you saw it with Chet, for example, tonight. Chet was 1 of 6 from 3, and he is a good 3-point shooter. And it just, sometimes things happen. Tim doesn't care. He scored 10 straight points in the third quarter. 10 straight points, and then missed the fucking free throw. That killed me. Like, he's just so much Tim. Much Tim. Don't know
what killed me was that 3-pointer he made against the shot clock on that busted play. And he catches the ball in the corner with 1 second on the shot clock, and Lou Dort runs away from him.
So he can
shoot it over shot. I was just like, that's That's one of the dumbest plays I've seen an NBA player make in a long time. Like, I don't know why he did that. But yeah,
that was the end of the game. I mean, that effectively.
That was the dagger.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to hang out for our next show. Josh, you go edit and then get some sleep. We will be back here. So it's a 2:30 day game on Saturday, just to prepare everybody. I have been neglecting my family on weekends in these day games, and I got 2 small kids. So on Saturday, we're going to hustle through our show as quickly as possible. I'm going to hustle through the post-game show, and then I promised my 8-year-old we can go see the Planet of the Apes movie at night. So we're going to fly through this stuff on Saturday. But thank you so much for hanging out here. Everybody else, hang in here and come talk basketball with me for at least another half hour, and we can enjoy this game. And hey, we got a few more tips to reach out to before we leave. Shout out to David McDaniels. He asked if PJ trending more towards the player he was tonight consistently, or is this an outlier? He's not too old to continue an upward trajectory. I think the points is probably a bit much, but PJ being like a high rebounding, just box like Sean Marion stat stuffer guy is what his role is for this Mavericks. So shout out to Daniel or David. Thank you so much. Let's see here. Then we had Glenn King. He says, great game. And then who's this here? This is Chris Chaz 10 with $2. Thank you so much, guys. Josh and I really, really appreciate all this stuff. I can't properly express how great it is to us. All right. Hang out here live with me, and I'll be right back. Josh, you go and enjoy editing, and then please get some sleep, and we will talk on Saturday. Go Mavs. Welcome to Mavs Party. It's about 12:20 on. It's Friday, May 10th. Shout out to Friday. Big happy thoughts from me on that. I've had enough caffeine to kill a small elephant, so we're going to be here talking basketball till you guys want to go to bed. If those of you who are new to the show don't know what we're talking about here, there is a link in the live show on YouTube. It is a StreamYard link, which you can click into from your phone. You can click into from your computer. You can come talk basketball with me, and we will hang out until people really want to go, because I am feeling good right now. I see 4 names in the chat. We got Brian, Casey, Zach, and Nate, though Nate's phone or device doesn't seem to be connecting. I'm going to go with names that I don't recognize first, just because I want people who are doing this for the first time or with less frequency to really feel like they can come up and do this. This is a community-based show. You guys help make it great, and I want you to feel like this is a place where you can come talk basketball with friends. So coming up first is Casey. Casey,
hey.
How are you?
Hey, man, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am pumped.
Happy to talk some basketball. Yeah, I feel a lot better than Tuesday, I'll tell you that.
I was really sad on Tuesday.
Yeah, they hung in there for like the half, 3 quarters, and it was like, oh, this is better than the game 1 last time, but no, it was no good. So,
yep.
Hey, my son's making an appearance. Hey, how are you? I'll be right back. I'll be back in a second, okay? All right.
Why are you talking to people on the internet at midnight?
I'm in LA. It's only 10 o'clock here.
Ah, nice.
He's getting ready for bed. It's his birthday this weekend. So
mine too. Happy birthday to your son.
Yeah, thank you. Anyway, I just wanted to say hi. I felt really good tonight. I think one of the things I've noticed that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about is the way that Luka and Kyrie. I wasn't really a fan of the trade last year. I just felt like it felt like those guys had never talked to each other outside of it. Like they were just playing different games. And but since they started this role last year, they found this thing where they will just sort of casually, they have a casual confidence of just handing the game back and forth to each other. Where it's like, hey, why don't you take this for a little while? And I've actually never seen that before with 2 superstars like that. Just kind of like like, just why don't you run it for a while, and then they'll step back and let the other guy run it. And it's like, it's really unique because they have sort of crossover skill sets, which is why I didn't like the trade. I was like, well, whatever Kyrie adds, he takes away from Luka in a way. And I was just like, they need to get bigger. They need to get bigger, and they're not doing it. And they tried to get bigger last year, and it was with, what's it, JaVale McGee and Christian Wood, and it just was like not coming together. And so now now that they have PJ out there and Gafford, and they're just bigger in the middle, and it unlocks Luka and Kyrie being able to handle the backcourt. It feels great. So I don't know how long this can go, but I'm just going to enjoy this run now because I was feeling pretty grim at this time last year.
Yeah.
So, this is great. Even, if they push this to 6 or 7, I'm not going to feel terrible about this season, but there's also like, maybe they can do it,
I mean, that's the thing about these small sample size games where it's, when we're playing the Clippers in the last round, we kept saying, oh, they can't shoot this well again, only for them to shoot this well again.
Right.
And the compared to the Thunder, this is just honest. The Mavericks have a narrower path to victory.
Sure.
The Thunder have some amazing player. Like Cason Wallace comes in off the bench. Cason Wallace would be our 5th best player. And he is like the 8th guy for the Thunder. They just have a lot of talent.
Yeah, I have not watched the Thunder much this year, honestly, but I now seeing these 2 games, I like Chet just scares the shit out of me. Like,
they're really fun. Like,
you
grow to hate a team when you watch them like this because they're beating your team. But
no, but they're fun to watch, and it was like, God, if I wasn't playing this team, I would love this team. But no, I mean, like when you see tonight, you would see like 3 or 4 times where it's like they're under the basket and they're trying, and like 4 layups don't go in, or they miss a dunk, and you're like, what's wrong with them? Is there a lid on the basket? And it's like, oh, it's because Chet is down there and he's just messing everything up. And then he's shooting threes, and it's like, I don't know what you do about this guy. So thankfully tonight he wasn't hitting, which was great. But yeah, no, I mean, I enjoyed watching that game tonight. This has been a heck of a run. I really have high hopes for this, so I hope to not be disappointed. But
well, they need to win one of these damn day games because they have been annihilated in these Saturday or Sunday afternoon games.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And my little boy's 8, and he'll sit there and watch these games with me. He doesn't get to watch a ton because they play late. And he obviously knows the team's good because he knows the record. But every time he watches with me, they look like shit. And I'm just like, this is horrible. He's like, he asked me, he's like, Daddy, why are we watching this? I'm like, buddy, I couldn't tell you.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, I don't want to say that Jason Kidd's a bad coach. I don't think he's a bad coach. And it's hard for me to say the words that he might be a good coach. Like he's in the top half. But then
I think in-game stuff he drives me crazy about.
Yeah, he does things. If he's good, then why does he do things that are just like confounding? Like the
vision of what he wants the Mavericks to be. When it's executed, the Mavericks look great. So if you were to think of him as more of an architect than a head coach, then I think that there's a heck of a lot there to be happy with. But then there's like the in-game stuff where he like today I'm glad we didn't need to talk about this, but I thought Daniel Gafford broke his hand and he left him in the game for 3 more possessions, not calling a timeout.
Luka was hopping on 1 foot, and I was like, he's going to be out for the rest of the series.
Yeah, and Kid's just like, that's fine. Rub some dirt on it. You're good.
Oh, my God. No, I mean, I'm glad. The one thing I like about Kidd is he's not one of these coaches who just substitutes on the clock. Like, oh, there's 2 minutes left. That's when you come in. That's when you come. He is watching the game and trying to adjust and putting in different lineups. But sometimes it's like, what is this lineup? And then, I mean, Tim Hardaway was great today. He had an assist, which I don't think I've ever seen before. Like, I was like, this is weird. So it's like normally with Tim, it's like if he makes shots, it's a good game. If he doesn't make shots, it's a bad game. And this time he was like actually dribbling and like throwing the ball around. That I was just real strange to see.
It's great. Absolutely wild.
Yeah.
Well, Casey, thanks so much for joining. You got anything else?
Thank you. No, I'll let you go, man. I'm just happy. I've been listening for a while, so I've been meaning to get on here, but just,
Good.
I'm
jealous. As much as I love Dallas, I went to college at Pepperdine. So like,
nice.
I deeply miss Southern California on a day like today, where the last 2 days where it's been like in the 90s and it feels like hell. So,
it's been beautiful here. Well, I took my son to game 2 against the Clippers, so we had a good game there too.
Man. Yeah. All right. You have a nice night. Thanks for talking.
Thanks, man. Good to talk to you.
Okay, coming up next with an incredible screen name is Wang Zhizhi.
What up, Kirk?
Welcome to the show. What's going on?
Hey, thanks for having me. I think after game one, I was like totally done. I was like, Lucas is going to be injured the whole time. He's not going to be able to hit any shots. He's not going to be able to push off that knee. And I was thinking we'd be down in 5. But this has given me a whole lot of hope, which is great. I think you and Josh talked a little bit about PJ. I think I love how he showed up, but I think I hope they can get him going in the low post a little bit more and like can get some more offense from him, like him initiating the offense. I feel like a lot of his offense comes from spotting up and shooting in a corner. And if that's not going, maybe he has a couple floaters, but I would just love to see some more initiative on his end. And maybe that's on Kid to drop some more stuff for him. But if they can just trap Shea or whoever little guy is down there on the block with him and he can just punish them, that's something else I have to deal with.
I've the offense and what the Thunder are doing defensively to the Mavericks. So did you watch the game where the Mavericks came all the way back down from 30 only to lose to the Thunder anyway? Do you remember this game? Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
I do. That was I was rough. Yeah.
That was a horrible game, but we learned a lot about the Mavericks that game. And one of the things that the Thunder have countered with is they're not always sending like very mixed doubles at Luka at different points in the shot clock. And so I'm wondering if the Mavericks will see anything on tape, because if you get PJ operating out of the center of the floor, he's really dangerous because he can pass the ball, he can hit that floater, he can also just go in and dunk the crap out of it. And they're not utilizing all of his skill set right now. And Josh was talking about how he's hitting a lot of threes and how that's probably not sustainable. But I do like watching PJ operate with the ball as the roll man, or really as the release valve with some of those things. So hopefully we'll get that, because I do agree that like sometimes him standing in the corner feels a little bit like a waste.
Yeah, and if he's not hitting his threes, if he didn't hit 7 threes today, and you've seen those games, right, where he's making 7 points, 8 points, and it's just tough to come by. So yeah, I hope that comes through in the next couple games. Another thing is, what is a charge, Kurt? I would love for you to explain to me what a charge is. If Derek Jones is jumping, he's trying to avoid Jalen Williams, and he hits, like, brushes his right shoulder. That's a charge all of a sudden?
Well, I mean, remember, they tried to challenge that, but it didn't get overturned. And I was glad to see that, because he was outside the circle, but Derek Jones Jr. avoids him. It's like one of the things that makes LeBron James like a super athlete is he never really charges, because he always gets to that side. And that's where it was pretty amazing that Derek Jones Jr. was able to do that. But the Thunder are pretty good at that sort of thing. I mean, PJ got one earlier by like taking him right in the chest, which I don't know. The only thing I was actually good at back in the day was taking charges. So I have a special love in my heart, even though I know a lot of people hate the charge. The reviews tonight really took the wind out of the game, but like there were 2 really long ones, and it's like that one was like they came back from commercial, and Hubie Brown is just sitting there. He's like. He's so old, and he's like, I don't have much time left to live. Can we move this along? Because it's clearly not a block.
Yeah, he's I hope he lives forever, but he's kind of slowing down a little bit. But I think there was a review, like you said, that was so long, and they come back, and I forget if it was Grant and Hubie, but both of them still said I think it was the foul. It was PJ Washington's foul, or he blocked Lou Dort's shot. And even after they had looked at it for however long and they confirmed that it was a block, Hubie Brown still said, well, he looked like he hit his arm. And
it did to me too. I couldn't believe they overturned that. I don't understand. I really don't. Oh, well.
Otherwise, my last point is I hope that Derek Lively just calms down a little bit. Maybe just takes an extra dribble. Even the same thing with Gafford. Just take an extra dribble after you are rolling. And because I think right when they dump off to Gafford in the free throw line, he's already starting to, do a 2-step approach to.
He only missed 2 shots, but it felt worse than that.
I know. And like even after that, when you get to that point, it's only little guys. They don't really have a power forward. It's just Chet. And if Chet's not in the picture, just take an extra dribble, go up strong, and I don't know. I hope they can just dominate.
I hope so
and
too,
figure
because
it out.
if he's able to score in the lane, then that's just going to break the Thunder defense. Like if he has a game where he starts off like 3 of 3 in the first quarter on some of those things, then that's going to force the Thunder to adjust. And I mean, I don't want to say the Mavericks stole one tonight, but you can see like elements of their path of how they win. It's just, they just need to execute on some of those other paths so they don't have to rely on the 3-point shot.
Yeah, I agree. And that's something we had to do like even before this trade is rely on the 3-point shot, but we don't have to. And otherwise, maybe I'll see you Saturday and go Mavs.
Thanks so much. Talk soon.
Yep.
Okay. Coming up next, we got my man, Brian. What's going on, man?
I'm not muted. Okay. Man, excited for a win. I must say, I actually have a confession to make. I did not watch a single second of the game.
Why?
I'll tell you what. I was watching with my friends around the time the game started. This Amazon Prime Kendrick Lamar Acceptance Tour performance that he had on there from last year. I was watching that with them, and we were talking about it and having fun. And I checked, and I saw that the game was on, and I told myself, okay, if the Mavericks are playing well while I'm watching this, I won't turn the game on.
I appreciate that commitment.
Start to go bad.
Dalton Trigg, do you hear what Brian did? Dalton Trigg of DallasBasketball.com. Do you hear that Brian took one for the team so that the Mavericks could win? Dalton, I kid you not, man. He'll like be in group chats with me, and he's like, I just tuned in, and then the Mavericks will lose like 10 points. We'll go the other way. Dalton, stop it.
That is the worst feeling on earth. And I was like, and knowing that game one is a feel out game, knowing how Kid approaches these things and knowing pretty much his coaching style as far as how he's going to start a series now, I should have known that it wasn't going to, it wasn't going to go great. They were going to be pretty rigid in what they were doing defensively. And they're like, okay, we're going to bear down on this one thing and then maybe try something else in the second half if that isn't working. But for the most part, we are here to take notes. I knew that. I still allowed myself to get really mad after game one. But I'm excited to see the adjustments that they made coming in the game too. I mean, because it can't just be, hey, PJ make 7 threes and Tim also have your first good game in like 3.5 months. As the adjustment, I'm sure there was more. Those things helped, but I haven't had an opportunity really to just pour honey on the entire team in a while. And Tim Hardaway Jr., welcome to the playoffs. I appreciate you.
Well, now we need to. Can we trade him in the playoffs?
Look, bro, the first thing I tweeted.
Is there a trade? Is there a portal for, man? Look, guys, Tim Hardaway Jr. Look at this. Look at
the first tweet I got off when I saw he was playing. It was literally, "Thank you, Tim. Get that trade value up."
Yeah,
I still appreciate it, but we know where it's going this summer. Actually, no. What I said was, don't go out like a hoe on your last ride, because this is his last ride. But you don't have to go out sad, man. We know you can be better than what you've been. So it was good to see him flex that a bit. Josh has continued to be impressive, and
he really was. Yeah,
it's really important to me. I can't wait to see it like for myself. But I looked at the box score. I saw he hit 3 threes, and
he hit. So Josh said the Mavericks were 6 of 19 for corner threes, and a lot of those were PJ. I mean, PJ was 7 of 11, so he obviously hit a ton of threes. But Derek Jones Jr., Josh, and PJ got the bulk of the corner threes. Dante Exum, again, missed one and then just never shot again. So it's really the Mavericks, they won in a weird way tonight. But I also, and we talked about this, Josh and I did, and some of the previous people who come up here, there are other paths to where they could win offensively. Like, it wasn't just because they hit a bunch of threes. They had a lot of stuff where they could have won by like 25 more points. Derek Lively finishing, Derek Jones Jr. actually finishing. Like, there's things that the Mavericks can do that they ought to be looking at.
You want to know when I knew that this was going to be our type of game and a game that we were going to be in all the way through, no matter whether we won or lost? Towards the end of the first quarter, because I wasn't watching the game, but I was checking on Real Sports app. I was checking like the game feed, so I was seeing, kind of the play-by-play and seeing the score and checking the box score now and then. But Didn't turn the game on for a second, so I'm excited to watch. But I knew end of the first quarter when I looked at the overall team stats and I saw Oklahoma City 6 free throws attempted, Dallas Mavericks 5 free throws attempted, and I saw turnovers just about identical. They had a slight lead in fast break points, but it wasn't anything that we couldn't make up. The rebounding looked the way that it should have in game one, and the shooting percentages were just about all flat. I saw Luka hit 2 threes early, PJ hit 2 threes early, Josh Green hit a 3 early, and I was like, okay, we're making our shots presumably in the corner, but probably also on the wing. Now that you give me that stat about the corner threes, and we're not turning the ball over. We're not
That was the
getting
big
a ton
part.
of offensive rebounds, and they aren't getting to the line, and neither are we, which let me know that
I felt like they were getting the line though. Like I thought, and I was kind of wrong about this. Shea drew a lot of fouls, but he did not draw a lot of shooting
fouls. Yeah. And so like it's difficult to tell in the moment when you're watching. That's why like I feel like it was kind of a mercy to myself to not put myself through stressing and watching that game. But when I'm able to step away and I'm able to just like go and look at the numbers, okay, it's not as many fouls as it feels like. Not all of them are shooting fouls, and there weren't as many ticky-tack fouls being called in this game as game one just by looking at the box score. This is a game called much more closely to usual playoff rules, like the Nuggets-Wolves series, than what we got in game one, which felt like a regular season game. And if we could keep them in the mud like that and have the opportunity to use our physical strength and our vertical athleticism, which are the only ways we can really combat their speed and their shooting talent, then we were going to be in the game.
Yeah. It's nice. It's really something.
Hey, let you play basketball. It's nice.
Well, I do recommend you trying to watch it if you can find a means, because the Oklahoma City folks were in Luka's ear. Kyrie got into it with a fan. Luka also got into it with the fan, to the point that Brad Townsend already has a story up on what he was mad about. And like, I just gotta like, look, I think the Thunder have more talent than the Mavericks. Okay. Just as a team, but don't fucking poke the bear, you morons.
How many times are we going to have to see this, man?
What are we doing right now? Like, the guy is on his last leg. He looks like he's about to die. And you're like, you know what? Why don't we say something stupid about his family? You know, like, why not? Like, let's just poke the bear. What the fuck do you think? Like, Luka got in this guy's grill on the sideline. Like, his eyes got so big because people don't understand this unless you go to games regularly. Most basketball players are very skinny. Okay, they are. All of them. LeBron's an exception. Zion's an exception. Luka is an exception. Luka might be carrying a little too much weight these days, but Luka is a massive human being. Okay, he weighs 250 minimum, and it's all here. It's all here. You don't want to fuck with this guy. Why would you get in his faces, or why would you like? I just don't understand it. I wouldn't talk to players. Like, no, I bet it's just I
just one family ill, right? Like, don't do that. Come on. Yeah. Like, it's a basketball game.
No, like Don Knobler, before he died, was a Mavericks super fan, and he basically got sent away for talking to Russell Westbrook so inappropriate. Just like, stop it. Like, stop. Like, these guys are lunatics. They're competitive lunatics. Don't, like, leave them alone.
Yeah, just one ill. Don't do that. Two, how many more times we're going to have to teach y'all this lesson, man? Don't tug on Superman's cape. Don't tug on Superman's cape. You should know better than that by now. But they don't, and we benefited. So, yeah, I got this game recorded, and I can't wait to watch.
If Lucas shaved his head and grew a beard, he'd be scary. Well, I mean, with the way his hairline is silently retreating, that might be.
Brother, we might be there sooner than you think. We got 3-4 years to left ticking on this clock.
He would be fifth. Like Wilbon wouldn't talk about him. Stephen A. Smith wouldn't acknowledge his existence if he did that.
Dude, anyway. Imagine the Derek White ball boost that he would get. Oh man.
Right.
First
Brian,
team all defense, baby.
I'll talk to you later. Thanks for hanging out.
Yes, sir. Peace.
All right. Coming up last, Krishna, what's going on?
Kirk, how are you?
You have your avatar, your background is your Josh Green meme, and it's incredible photo. That's a dingo in the background of you, not a dog. So everyone's clear.
He has that dingo. I have no idea where I found it. I've been trying to reverse engineer the person that gave me this meme in the summer, and I have no idea where it's from, but I insistently use it because it is a fantastic meme to use. But man, what a great game, Kirk. It's so funny. 0-5 in game ones. That's like the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. How we won 3 series at this point, I'll never know. But obviously Luka, he's fantastic. Like he's been so hobbled, but the fact that he just pulled out a game like that is pretty insane. And maybe the MVP stuff motivated him. I don't think so. I think just losing game one was enough.
Oh, I'm glad you're asking me. I'm glad you bring this up. We're so far into this podcast and nobody listens to this one relative to our other show. I don't do sourcing stuff very much. Let me just tell you, I was told that the MVP stuff absolutely pissed him off. Like, absolutely pissed him off when he saw that he was third behind Shea. So
I would think so too. I would hope so. I mean, like, look, I'm with you. I don't think Shea, like, I don't hate Shea. I just get annoyed at the whistle. I think the whistle kind of annoys me, but I like his overall game. Like, I think he's clearly a very good player.
Oh yeah.
But narratives are what they are. It felt like they felt very lazy to me, right?
Sure.
It felt more of a justification to not give Luka the MVP rather than giving other players a reason to give it. It is what it is. I'm not gonna like sit about and worry about it. You're in the playoffs at this point. Like, what does it matter? But that's like who Luka is. Like we've seen it the whole time. Like literally his most famous clip is like everybody acts tough when they're up. Like he says that for a reason because this guy's a maniac when he wants to compete. Like I think Tim last season had that article about Luka when he was still in Slovenia and he was like 14 and he was playing, or he was younger probably. I think he was like 8 playing against 12-year-olds and he was just destroying all these kids. Like he's been like that since he was a kid. And so I don't know. I think I just kind of did expect it and I'm glad it came out from him, but what a game. And then I don't know if you guys have talked about it much, but I get the frustration with Kyrie not being aggressive, but it's something that I feel like we've talked so much about in the past few years is just that we want players to make the right decisions rather than just, do whatever. And I feel like that was the kind of game Kyrie played. In a way, it was very similar to game 5 versus the Clippers. Less scoring, obviously, than that game, but he had way more assists. And the thing that's been continuous is his defensive effort has been there the entire time this playoff.
For who? For Kyrie? Absolutely. Kyrie has been locked in on defense. And that it's harder to talk about defense in a post-game pod, but he got his money's worth on his fouls. He was hustling around. There was a lot to like about Kyrie tonight. He had 4 stocks, 2 steals and 2 blocks. Really impressive.
Yeah, and I think we won the overall stocks battle, right? And I think we're like undefeated or close to undefeated in this playoffs when we win that. So that's a good sign. And then obviously PJ, man, like
sure.
I get all the hullabaloo and the fuss about I get all the hullabaloo and fuss about, trading the first round pick, but it's like the thing that we talked about and that had been talked about so much is you have to build a winning team around Luka. And I get that there has to be a balance, right? You don't want to be the Suns where you say, I don't care about a 13-year-old kid, so you trade all your picks. But the thing that's key is PJ clearly has offered something to this team this Mavericks team didn't have. Like we're already down Maxey. That's a huge loss. If we didn't trade for PJ Washington, it would have been even worse. Honestly, It really would have been worse. And so I'm not saying it's a definite win that trading that first round pick was a definite win, but I can't see how you look at that trade and you say, oh, that was the worst decision you could have made. I think it was absolutely worth it. And the same with Gafford. What it's done is it's given you not like necessarily the biggest safety net, but it's given you some level and some sense of less worry, right? Less variability to your game overall.
Yeah.
We're going to say something.
Love it.
Yeah, that's
Love
it.
it, man.
Obviously, Josh was awesome tonight. If you told me before the playoffs began, Josh would be the best role player in these past 2 series, off the bench, I would have laughed you off.
I agree. No, I mean, I essentially, Exum turning into a pumpkin is so weird. I do want Exum to get, I want Kid to stick with him a little longer, Exum, because his ball handling was really helpful. It just is. And he needs to see a corner three go down. He has hit one meaningful three in the last month. He hit one April 10th against the Heat. And since then, he's only hit one other three, and it was in garbage time in game one against the Thunder. And he's getting like one a game. He needs one to go down. He is a functional shooter. And I'm very frustrated with kind of the short leash that he gets relative to other people, just because I think they're going to need him. Like, he's a good basketball player. We've seen it.
No, I agree. I think it is frustrating that he is the one with the shortest leash out of him. And I don't think Josh necessarily has as short a leash now. Like, you can see, even if like game one, he wasn't making every shot, but he took 8 threes, which is like pretty crazy that he took 8 threes, but he still made 3 of them. But it is frustrating, but I also think it's a balance, right? And I don't disagree with you that I do think maybe a little bit more out there. And it's weird that these past 2 series have not been great for him. I thought he would have done at least a little better in the Clippers series. This one I can kind of understand, right? It's a far more athletic team, but what you hope for is that he just has that one game that, like gets him. Like, I think we always think about Maxey having that great 8-3 game against Utah, but he had some rough games in that series.
Oh my God. Yes. Yeah.
And that happens. Like, I get he's a veteran, and especially Dante, like you see all the Slavia, it wasn't Slavia Prague. I forget which club he played for in Europe, but you see all those crowds and you think, oh, he played in that. Why can't he play in this? And it may not be so much the crowd, just himself. And, like you said, it just takes one shot to go in, and that's it. You might start clicking. So I get the concern. I don't think it's unwarranted. I don't know. I've got faith. And I think that it would be more concerning if this was like Rick, right? Where it felt like when Rick pulls a player, he's just never going to go back to it. And that's kind of something I do give Kid credit for, is he doesn't seemingly completely give up on players. He at least gives them a chance to work their way back in. And so concerning, yes. DEFCON 5, no, is what I would say on the Exum thing. But overall, good game. Obviously, you have to come back home on Saturday. It's so funny. Apparently, OKC is like terrible on
good day game, so we might have a mid-off for the Mavericks.
Yes, no. It's going to be the biggest mid-off you've ever seen. No one's going to make a 3. It's going to be horrible.
Oh my God, can't wait. I'm sure I'll get to recap that game too. All right, thanks for hanging out, man.
Absolutely. Have a great night, Kirk.
All right. So I wrote the recap over at Mavs Moneyball. You guys should go read it. I wrote 1,100 words like a sociopath. We had 2 different stats posts turned in because I didn't work out who was doing what before the game. Josh almost always writes a post-game column following these type of games, but I told him not to because he needs to get some sleep. He's been staying up extra late doing Mav stuff. But yeah, we got stuff over there. Thanks so much for hanging out. Those of you who are listening this late into the show, please leave a comment. Please like the show. Please subscribe if you haven't. Those of you, if we had a couple more people leave tips. Albert, thanks so much. Albert left us a $5 tip. Really appreciate these sorts of things, guys. Josh and I are always very grateful. Okay, we'll be back on Saturday. Probably, like I said, I'm going to run a shorter show because I want to go see a movie with my kid. But this has been a lot of fun. This is what we worked so hard for, as content makers all years, to be able to enjoy the Mavericks with you guys at the key point in the year. Hope everybody has a great Friday, and we will talk to you guys on Saturday. Go Mavs.